Appreciate you. Thank you, Joe. I want to thank you for that overly kind introduction. But more importantly, I want to thank you for your friendship and for your leadership. I want to thank you for the way you have the uncanny ability to diffuse tense situations with some well-placed humor. It does our labor movement good, and I want to say thanks for your leadership. Thanks for everything you do. I appreciate you, pal. Proud to call you my brother. And I want to talk to you today about unity in our movement. And I want to talk about Democrats, and I want to talk about Republicans, and I want to talk about the labor movement's engagement in the social issues of our day, and about where we stand in the middle of all of it as a labor movement, as working people. First, I want to say this about your union. You know, a merger like yours isn't easy. There's nothing simple about it. But on the one hand, your merger has potential for tremendous, tremendous value. A larger, more powerful membership means you have more of a voice in more arenas, in organizing and in politics, from city halls to all the way up to Capitol Hill in Washington. And that's a good thing. That's not only good for you, that's good for the entire labor movement. Yet on the other hand, all that sounds very, very positive, but I know how hard it is to unite a movement. I know how tough it is to mobilize and bring together a membership as diverse as ours, and as broad and as strong and as varied as the workers represented by this union. And I know it's difficult at times to strike the right balance, but I can tell you something. It's worth the effort, because that's how you'll achieve greater strength without losing all of those traditions that are so dear to each one of us. And so I want to commend you for the work that you've done and the work that you will do. And as I said, it may not be easy, but it's important. And the merging of cultures for greater power, for greater strength. You see, brothers and sisters, that's called unionism. That's the power of unionism, pure and simple. And just as unionism is central in our lives, we aim to help more working families, to use unionism to build a better life. And I'm not saying that because I like the sounds of the words. I'm saying it because unionism works. Solidarity builds strong careers and strong families and strong communities and a strong future for the United States of America. And we know that a union is the best tool to win respect, to turn bad jobs into good jobs. One with good pay and good benefits and a chance for secure retirement. Because when we stand together, we're powerful. We earn respect. See, there's no denying it. Unionism sure works. Best way to fair pay is a union contract. Best way to retirement security is a union contract. And the best way to a better tomorrow so that you can give your family and their family a decent life and a strong future, well, it all comes down to a union contract. You see, we live in the richest nation on the face of the earth at its most rich point in time. And a decent life for us and our children and our grandchildren isn't too much to ask for, because we're the workers of America. From the shipyard to the roundhouse, from the construction site to the airfield, we build systems and we make them run. We lift the loads and we answer the call. We do whatever it takes, no matter what the cost is. We wake our country up every day and we tuck her to bed every night, and when she needs defending, she turns to us to defend her. You see, we won't be turned aside, we won't sit down, we won't back up, we won't shut up, and we will not be denied. This is our country, and we're about to take it back for the workers who make this country work. See, you know the story of the past 40 years as well as anybody. You know how our productivity rose, but our wages froze, which meant virtually all the wealth that we created by our growing economy went to the richest 1%, and most of the time to the richest 1/10 of 1%. And as working men and women, we've seen the day-to-day toll that this trend has taken on workers. We've seen how corporations sometimes rig themselves to fail so that executives can break pensions and walk away with millions of dollars. We've seen profitable companies use the struggles down the street to justify trying to take health care cuts and take back contracts. We've seen corporations, profitable and strong, cut corners, take shortcuts for no reason other than for a little more profit. And when they did that, they put us at risk. They put our lives and our well-being at risk. And that's wrong. Look at the effort to end two-man crews by increasing automation on the railways. I don't think those executives have been reading the newspapers about derailments, because we need our trains fully staffed. We're talking about the safety. You see, we're talking about the safety of our communities. We're talking about the lives of workers, us. That isn't up for debate any more than the idea of flying a commercial airplane with only one pilot. Shortcuts are simply too dangerous, and guess what? Hundreds and thousands of us die and pay the price every year because of those shortcuts. And those proposals come back to one simple thing. It's the endless pursuit of more money, higher profits at the expense of human life. That's the story of the past 4 decades, as working people have been worn down all over the country. Our entire nation's been worn down because our economy doesn't work when work doesn't pay. But here's the good news. Everywhere, and I mean everywhere, people are starting to understand themselves as workers. People all across the country and around the world are beginning to see collective action and collective bargaining as a solution to our troubles. From the Vatican to Vegas and everywhere in between, more and more people are talking about economic inequality. People who have never spoken the words before. See, the public's debating big issues like a living wage, collective bargaining. We're talking about raising wages for workers. And guess what? They like it. And I can tell you this, people who like the idea of raising workers' wages are going to love the reality of raising workers' wages a whole lot more. You see, household expenditures make up 70% of the American economy. And that's how raising our wages will create jobs. Because when workers do well, America does well. We buy goods, we buy services, all of those to improve our lives. And when we do that, we create demand. And then corporations have to hire more workers to meet the demand that we create. It's called a virtuous cycle. And it's the opposite of a race to the bottom. It's the foundation of a strong economy built on raising wages, not credit card debt and asset bubbles. See, we're spreading the word. At the AFL-CIO, we've got a new program. It's called Common Sense Economics. And it tells workers how they did it to us. Because guess what? The economy is not like the weather. Nothing you can do about the weather, right? The economy is a set of rules. And those rules decide the winners and the losers. And those rules that decide the winners and the losers are made up by the men and the women that we elect. We put them into office. See, we're educating our membership on just how they do it and how they don't do it. Anybody here heard about common sense economics yet? Raise your hand. Listen, you got to find out about it. We'll get trainers out so you can train your membership. See, we have a plan to teach 1 million regular working people how raising wages is the answer to creating an economy that really works for everyone, not just the upper crust or the 1%. That's just one way that we'll use information to continue to build momentum for working families. We've got other initiatives too. We're strengthening our state federations and our local labor councils. And I urge you, if you don't belong to your local labor council or your state fed, join. Because the labor movement grows and is strong from the bottom up. You got to be part of that movement at the bottom up so that we can all get together. And then we're joining together with community partners and allies in ways that we've never done before. Because we're the mainstream movement. You know, I know, Joe, that we haven't been acting like it. But 80% of the American public agrees with us, with our values, for the things that we fight for every single day. And yet we've allowed them to put us on the defensive. But America's tired of losing middle-class jobs. From Montana to the Gulf of Mexico and from Oregon to the Florida coast, we're done with the downward spiral. You see, in poll after poll, we hear Americans say, we want an economy that works for everyone, not just the wealthy. And listen to this. More than 70% of the American people want a minimum wage that's at least $10.10 an hour. 72% say that federal investments in America's infrastructure to create jobs should be a top national priority. 82% of the public wants good American manufacturing jobs, not more bad trade deals. See, that's an idea that unites us. And 90% of the American people, well, they want an end to Chinese currency manipulation. 90%. That's an idea that unites almost every single one of us. And let me tell you this one. See, Joe knows that at the AFL-CIO, we do a lot of polls too. And we ask a specific group of voters if they agreed with this simple statement. We need to make sure that all of us, not just CEOs, get our fair share of the economy. And 2 out of every 3 voters agreed. 66% said, yep, that's right. We need to make sure all of us, not just CEOs, get our fair share. Well, you might think that number's a little low, but you'll think differently when you hear who we asked. The poll was of registered Republican working class voters, or as I like to think of them, are workers who happen to be Republicans. And two-thirds of them, two-thirds of the Republican voters said, we have to make sure that all of us, not just CEOs, get our fair share. Well, here's what that means to me. It means that a solid majority of working people of every stripe share our same basic challenges, the same hopes and the same dreams, and together we understand that economics are at the heart of our problems. You see, working people may embrace a range of philosophies and religions and political points of view, but we're united by the circumstances of our lives, by the vision, and by the hopes that we have. And so guess what? It's up to you and me. It's up to each of us to help bridge the gap for the workers who share our values but don't yet see how our interests intersect. And that's why we're reaching out to all workers, even if they fly the Tea Party flag, because when it comes to economic issues, we all must stand together so that the voices of America, our America, can be heard in the workplace and in national life. And let me tell you, our research shows us that there's a demographic within the self-described Tea Party community, and I'll call them Tea Party populists, if you will, who actually share our values, who want an America to work for the people who work. See, work should never hold us down and trap us in poverty. Work should lift us up. We want our country to work for the people who work, and America is on our side. Listen, this is good news. Power and hope are rising in this country. We're on the right path, brothers and sisters. From sheet metal workers to retail, from domestic workers to day laborers, a groundswell is growing. And it keeps growing. And it keeps getting stronger and stronger. And it's a movement to raise wages so that all of us can live a better life. You see, we stand together to raise wages for all. We'll fight for construction workers and security guards. We'll march together for mass transit and power plant workers, for all working families, for good pay. We'll stand together for a strong future for each other. Again, we won't back down or back up or step down until we win a new day for the American dream, and we will shout it from Vegas all across the country, and we'll show them how much good raising our wages can do and how collective bargaining can bring us out of the doldrums that this country has been in and put us back at the top on the world economy. You remember I began my remarks by talking about the merging of our union cultures. And let me tell you, what you're doing within your union is pretty similar to what we're doing throughout the labor movement. You see, we're taking a movement of working people and we're bringing that movement closer to the other social movements of our day. See, we're talking about immigration, or the movement for marriage equality, or the movement to end mass incarceration. Some of the most contentious issues of our day, well, they're cultural issues. And I know what some people say. They say, oh, the old AFL-CIO spends too much time and too much money on those social issues. The critics don't see jobs coming out of it. They don't see collective bargaining agreements coming out of it. Well, here's what I tell them. I say, first, there's a rationale for everything that we're doing, because our labor movement can't stand alone. I want you to think back when the labor movement was the center of the community, the town that I grew up in, a little mining town. Every social event was at that union hall. Everybody supported the union, and the union was in every facet of the community. And we were growing, because we have to have people on our side. So we're stepping forward with those allies and partners who share our values, who share our basic interest, because we're more than just an interest group. We're a movement for working people, all working people. That's what solidarity is all about. Our strength comes from standing together. And second, I tell them this: when we cast our eyes about for our partners, we look for those who share our values and our interests. We know, I know, as the son and grandson of immigrants, of workers who were called every name in the book, who were cheated because we didn't speak the language, who were the last ones hired and the first ones fired. And they had a slang term for every one of us in this room. I know what it's like to be an immigrant, hardworking and searching for a better life, a life where hard work yields reward so that you can raise your family the way you want to, so that you can pass a better life on to your children. You see, that dream is the immigrant dream, and it's mine and it's yours too, because that dream is the American dream. You see, we're not a bunch of bleeding hearts condescending to the latest liberal fad. We stand together with working people for working family issues. And when you think about it, immigrant policy has always been a work policy, ever since the days of chattel slavery. And the worst thing that we can ever do as working people is allow ourselves to be divided along social lines, to be torn apart, to be beaten up one by one. Because think back to your history. Every single time we allowed that, workers lost and the boss won. So we're standing together with all workers, because we know that if working people stand together, we win. And if we don't, we fall together. So that's why we're building a movement, a broad movement for the America that we want and need. We're building a movement that will understand the importance of an energy-efficient future, of good jobs and a secure economy. We're building a movement that will understand the importance, once again, of made in America, and will understand the importance of American-made, union-made, because those are the best products that the nation has ever had and the world has ever seen. And let me tell you this, when it comes to politics, brothers and sisters, you won't find us joining together with just anybody. You see, we're not working for just any candidate. We're not building power for any political party, not the Democratic Party and not the Republican Party. We're building power for working people, pure and simple. And we're looking at the long view, not the short view. We'll work for anybody who works with us. And we're not afraid of holding anybody's feet to the fire, regardless of the party they come from, because we need results, pure and simple. The time for excuses, I can't, won't, or will not, are out of the question. We want I can, I will, and I have done for working people. And God, we've learned some mean political lessons, haven't we? About the red-blue divide in the last few years. Hard political lessons. But I want you to listen very closely to what I have to say. Because we are stronger because of those lessons. We are more independent because of those lessons. We're more focused, more disciplined, more creative, and more powerful because of those lessons. And we're asking every single candidate who wants our support some tough questions. Do you support America's workers? Do you support American manufacturing jobs? Do you support our right to bargain collectively for a better life? Do you support good jobs? Will you grow the economy, not shrink it? Will you raise our wages? And tell us, please, how you're going to do it before we give you our support. And I'll tell you, we're not going to hold our nose and line up behind any Democrat just because there's a D next to his or her name. That's not good enough anymore. We deserve better, we expect better, and we will have better than that. Yet I promise, I swear that no one will work harder, smarter, longer, or more effective to elect the leaders who make the right commitments, and no one will work harder or longer or more determined to defeat those who don't, regardless of party. And here's what I'm asking you to do. Do this with me. This electoral season, I want to ask you to lead by example. Be the first one out there to knock on doors. Be the first one to the phone bank to make those calls to motivate working people. I'm going to do that. See, we have a plan for what we're doing. We'll motivate volunteers. We'll strengthen our activists. We'll connect with more working class voters, get more working families to the polls. Because if you want the policies that we need, the policies to create an economy that works for all of us, not just those at the top, if you want all of us to get our fair share, then we need the right leaders in every corner of America. And we've got to engage. We've got to turn out our people. And that starts with each and every one of us. That's not a job you can put off for somebody else. Each of us has to do it. And after Election Day, we'll have a stronger network of activists and local leaders ready to mobilize and pressure our leaders to support our organizing drives, collective bargaining drives, legislative fights for union members of tomorrow. See, we're changing lives. We really are. We're scrambling and we're reaching for a little more hope because we have a vision and we're going to make that vision real. But it's going to take all of us to pitch in because when all of us do our fair share, well, then we win. You see, from Long Island to Long Beach, from the maintenance shed to the factory floor, we win together when we stand together. So you got to get off your seat and on your feet, brothers and sisters. When we stand together, we win together. And we're going to win this time, I promise you, because we're going to work for it. We'll stand for it together, each one of us, with real solidarity, the type of solidarity where your picket line is my picket line and mine is yours, and I don't ask any damn questions about what you're fighting for. I see a worker fighting, I stand beside that worker. I fight with that worker, shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, all day, every day, for as long as it takes to win wages, to raise wages, to grow together, to bring out the best in our country. For an America that we can have, will have, and must have. Keep on fighting. Keep on winning. God bless you.